Greetings, kindred. Wow, it's been really intense, hasn't it? Actually, since the Lionsgate, with the intensity first, started to really, escalate. I think it's the right word to use. Yeah, I feel like we're all on this big come down at the moment. So yeah, here in the UK, our Queen has transitioned. I think it's been expected for quite a while, or we've all been expecting for that announcement to be made. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not sure how I feel about it actually. I've been quite detached from that whole scene for quite some time. I mean, back in 2020, I was part of the Save the Children protests in London, and me and my daughter, we did all the en route marches, and we did visit that residence, as well as many others. But I mean, she's been around, longer than I've been on this earth, and yeah, it just feels really strange at the moment. But what it actually brings me back to is I think it was about a year or two ago. I can't remember exactly when now, but I remember I was writing a newsletter, which I haven't done for quite some time. So I do apologize for that, but there's a lot going on in the other side of my life. So, new jobs and new roles and new trainings and inductions and stuff like that, which has taken me away a little bit from my astrology work. So just bear with me while I'm kind of readjusting myself. But yeah, it was about a year or two ago that I got a vision of the changing of the guard, outside Buckingham Palace. They do a changing of the guard, I think, every morning. Or they used to, I don't know if they still do. But I had this vision of that. And then I actually heard the words, this is all about the changing of the guard, of what we were going through at the time. And at the time, I wasn't sure what it meant, but I still put it out there anyway. And then it started to make sense as time went on. Oh, wow, there is a changing of the guard going on somewhere, because like things are changing. Like, we've seen a lot of change over the last few years. Do you know what I mean? There's been a lot of like drama, really. It's all been very dramatic, and it's all covering different areas like climate change, economy, the virus, politicians, politics in general. There's a lot going on. But there would be with Pluto, coming to the end of his transit through Sagittarius. So, this was bound to happen. But yeah, I got this changing of the guard. And then yesterday, when I heard our Queen of Transitions, I got a message saying, this is it now. The changing of the guard has been going on behind the scenes, but now it's really going to come to the forefront. Now it's going to really be in our material physical world. So it's like exposing itself now. We're going to see some big changes from here on. And probably a little bit earlier than I thought. I think these changes may start in October, or maybe they still will start in October. Because remember, there's 10 days before King Charles is crowned. So maybe all, the old traditions on the death and the birth of the new king or whatever, maybe that will take us into October. But yeah, I just found that really interesting. I'm not going to give my opinions on the family because, like, there's been a lot of controversy out there already. There's been a lot of difference of opinions, which, of course, creates more division. And, this is the sad thing about all these things that are coming to light. It creates division. But there has to be a point where people recognize that we're all entitled to our own opinions. Do you know what I mean? We should never be judgmental. And that's why I'm opening with this Mercury retrograde. You know, the first thing I noticed was, you know, Mercury is actually in opposition to Chiron. Now, Chiron is all about wounds and, you know, wounds that can never be healed but can only ever be managed. And 23 adds up to the number 5, so it's a very shifting energy. But Chiron in Pisces, that's very, very emotional. And in opposition to Mercury, in Virgo, which is a very analytical sign, wow, this can be very judgmental. Can be, you know, we can be very highly sensitive to other people's opinions. But it's also an opposition that it's hard to make sense of the information coming in because the information isn't workable or it's not sufficient. You know, so again, we've really got to follow our own instincts and follow our own minds. Do you know what I mean? But I hate it when people are judgmental, regardless of what they're saying. I mean, everyone has a right to their point of view. You know, it's not like there was purity in that situation, because there wasn't. You know, so everyone's got their own mind. And yeah, what I've been seeing is a lot of like, oh, you know, I've like banged this person off my feed or banged that person off my feed, you know, because of what they're saying or because of what their opinion is. You know, I just don't get into it. I'd rather just take a step back and just observe. It's far better to be observant than it is to be judgmental. Do you get what I mean? We're all entitled to our opinion. But anyway, so I just found that very interesting. But, you know, so Mercury starts his retrograde at 14 degrees. And like I said, he will retrograde back to 0 degrees and then will be in post shadow until he reaches back to 14 degrees around about October. So the number 14 is, again, it's a very physical, material number. And it's all about forces of nature. You know, this number actually is very powerful when it comes to growth, you know, but also when it comes to creativity and especially in the art and music areas, you know, the areas of music art, you know, it's star sign that's connected. The star sign that's connected to this number is Taurus. And yeah, so it's very creative. It's very, you know, a luxurious number, but it's all about nature. It's all about organisms, living organisms and growth. So, you know, and because Mercury is more about the mentality, it's more about the communication, how we think. You know, there is definitely going to be growth or expansion in the way we think. And again, you know, 1 and 4 do add up to 5. So this is a very shifting energy. And, you know, talking about the Queen's transition, I got a message yesterday when I heard she died, and it brought me back to that time of like the changing of the guard and what I saw. And the message I got yesterday was, this is it now. Now we're going to see this change play out in the material physical world. So we can, from here onwards, expect to see some major shifts playing out in the collective globally. So with Mercury retrograding in Virgo, it can be quite frustrating as well because it's really hard to try and stay one step ahead of things. when Mercury's in retrograde. And it also creates a lot of nervous energy. So we can come across as a little bit emotionally detached and again, can be very judgmental, very criticizing, which leads to separation. And again, you know, with this opposition with Chiron here, I feel like this whole situation with the Queen passing is going to be another kind of energy coming in that's going to create division. Do you know what I mean? And it's not really what I would personally want to see. You know, I can't wait for the day to come when people actually come together as communities and support each other. And I do feel that time will come because it will be, but it will come out of necessity. Do you know what I mean? It will come out of kind of like realizations that the only way that people can make all these dire situations work to the benefit of the people is by connection. You know, the age of Aquarius is all about oneness and brotherhood and sisterhood. It's not about division and separation. It's very much a Piscean energy. But, you know, we do have another 500 years before our sun rises in Aquarius on the March equinox. So, you know, the next 500 years are going to be very, very important for humanity. And, you know, but we, like I've always said, we're in the aura of Aquarius. So a lot of the Aquarian energy is coming in. So this is where we need to be in a higher consciousness, Uranian, you know, for the Uranian energy in our charts to kick off. I mean, Uranus is in Aries right now. You know, it's very rebellious energy. And, you know, here in the UK, it's conjunct the midheaven, which is all about the public face, and the North Node, which is really about kind of like the trends and where they're going or life cycles. Do you know what I mean? And it's more kind of community based or global based. And yeah, you know, we've still got this grand going. We've spoken about that, but like I said before, we're kind of getting worn with this now. You know, there's only, you know, when it first comes into place, we're kind of a little bit confused. We don't understand how we keep ending up in the same place all the time. Eventually, we kind of get used to the energy, and then we start to get clarity. So there's so much energy with this beginning of the Mercury retrograde, you know, because we do have Mercury also in opposition to Jupiter in Pisces at 13 degrees, and he's in retrograde. I mean, Chiron's in retrograde a lot of the time anyway, so I don't really take Chiron's retrograde too seriously, because I think forwards or backwards, it's still the same kind of energy. Do you know what I mean? So we do have Mercury in opposition to Jupiter and in trine to Mars. Now these are both fire energies, except for Mars is in Taurus, so he slows down a bit. But yeah, you know, the only thing with Mercury in retrograde in opposition to Jupiter in retrograde is that we are coming to terms with like promises that haven't been kept. You know, we're all aware of this all talk, no action kind of scenario. But again, you know, there is also this, you know, this reveal of confidential information that's coming out. And, you know, which really gets the brain ticking. But with Mars in Taurus, we can be kind of stuck in one frame of mind. Do you know what I mean? So again, it's so important that we really try to open up the mind. But it could also mean that there's a lot of information or a lot of reveals that are about to be exposed, but they're not really considered to be at an appropriate time, or it could be like, well, this has just happened, so how can this be kind of revealed at a time like this? Do you know what I mean? There's always like a backlash to information coming out. And I think just beware of that, because information is information no matter when it comes out. If it needs to be said, it needs to be said. And with Mars in Taurus, it can create mind blocks. So we can get stuck. We can kind of like just feel really confused about things in the respect of like, we can't get into our own heads because our heads are just full of like outside noise. And I think I said that in my last podcast. And there's all this noise around us, and it stops us from concentrating on our own thoughts, and it stops us from like coming into our own, following our own instincts. Do you know what I mean? So, and there is actually a T-square with the sun, the moon, and Mars. So this is the day of the full moon as well, but it's just a little bit earlier in the morning. So yeah, just be patient. I think we just need to be patient. But I just feel on the build up, while Mercury's been in pre-shadow, these are the energies that are really being applied. These are the energies that Mercury's been coming into. Okay, let's go to the full moon. So the full moon takes place on the 10th of September at 10:59 a.m. in the GMT time zone, at 5:59 a.m. in the EDT time zone, and at 19:59 in the AEDT time zone. So the moon will be in the sign of Aquarius at 19 degrees. Now, it's funny because as Mercury retrograde begins, there's all this controversy around that energy. But the number 19, and I've said this before, this is really good for children and young people. It's a very creative number, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And it brings in like harmony and joy and progress. It's very much connected to the sign of Leo. And of course, our sun in opposition to the moon, which always occurs at a full moon, is in Leo at 29 degrees. That adds up to 11. So this is about self-mastery. And this is where I get a very symbolic kind of energy from the transition, the recent transition of our queen. And yeah, I just feel like there's like a positive energy coming from this, even though, it's a sad time for many. So, I just feel like there's a lot of honor and a lot of honor reveal. It's going to be very honoring and very good for our children. So, the moon in Aquarius is very sympathetic, to humanitarian causes. And, if we can get into that, if we can be that calm and that's another thing, because I was going to say, if we can be that calm in the storm. Now, weirdly, just before our queen transitioned, for about 3 days, we had like, not a storm here, we won't call it a storm, but there was a lot of thunder and lightning going on and a lot of rain. And today, it's a really calm day. That was really strange as well. So, you know, if we can be the calm in the storm, I feel like we can get a lot of downloads. We can really get in tune with our intuition, because the one good thing about Aquarius is we can detach from our emotions, and we can kind of be a little bit more, not analytical, but more get into our higher consciousness about things, like look at situations from a bird's eye point of view. Do you know what I mean? So, but there will be like this urge to break free of all like the boundaries and the restrictions. And in that respect, I think we need to be aware of acting before we think. Do you know what I mean? But I just feel this urge to be just free of all this negative energy, or this negative, like, you know, what's being put out there, information, in information, you know, people's opinions, the media's opinions, because there's a very manipulative energy going on with this as well. So we really need to just step back, get into our own minds, get into our own hearts, and follow our own instincts. But with our moon in square to Mars here, and there is actually a T-square still going on here, you know, it kind of shows me that there's a very emotionally volatile and highly sensitive energy there as well. You know, so just like with Mercury being in opposition to Chiron, which is highly sensitive, this square here with our moon and Mars is very, so, you know, with this transitioning of our queen, it's just going to be a lot going on certain platforms where it's going to make people feel highly sensitive about, you know, what's being released. You know, we just need to kind of step away. If we feel that we can't handle certain like points of view, then just step away for a few days from the media. Do you know what I mean? And just like go into your garden. I mean, we're in September now. Gardens need to be trimmed and prepared for the winter months if you live in a four-season zone. Do you know what I mean? Or just get things done around the house, read a book, meditate, you know, do deep breathing techniques, prepare ourselves for the winter, make sure you've got all your vitamins in for the winter, or you've stocked up on your winter products. Do you know what I mean? Let's be more productive, because all what's going on in the outside world at the moment is very distracting. And I just feel it's a very negative, and I can only keep using the word energy. It's just very negative. So, you know, I feel like, you know, because the moon is in sextile to the north node, I feel this is a good time to like get all those little snagging bits done. Do you know what I mean? Mercury retrograde is always about repairing, reviewing, you know, like I was saying to someone this morning, it's all about the reads, you know, going back and, you know, doing all those, getting all those little snagging points out the way. So I think this is a really good time in like, you know, clearing up all the little small projects that have been left on the back shelf. So again, you know, we also have the moon in opposition to Venus. So, you know, in Leo, and Leo can be quite prideful. So this is another kind of highly sensitive energy. You know, we need to be in a place of reality, to be honest. There's a lot going on right now, and we need a big reality check, or some of us need a big reality check. And getting ourselves organized. That should be our main focus right now, not really what's going on around us, because what's going on around us is going to occur anyway, whether we're watching it or not. We can always go back and find out, oh, you know, what went on at this point or what went on at that point. We can always do a catch up and find like the information or the media. It's very repetitive anyway. So we can always catch up very quickly. It's like watching a soap opera. You know, you miss an episode and you can always catch up the following week and work out what was going on the week before. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, just see it like that, basically. So, you know, we do have the Black Moon Lilith in the sign of Cancer now at 7 degrees. Now, the Black Moon Lilith, she's going to be flitting backwards and forwards between Gemini and Cancer. I think she's done her transit with Taurus now, which is kind of a little bit of a relief because that was like stirring up all this you know, all this dark energy around our finances, about our resources. But now we've got to come to terms with, where does our codependency lie? We all really know where our codependency issues are in life or as a collective, but maybe we need to look at that as individuals as well. I don't know if we could ever be fully independent, you know, especially in certain countries in the world where full independence is not really possible because of ownership issues. Do you know what I mean? But we can be as independent as we possibly can. And I think that needs to be our focus at the moment. And the Black Moon Lilith is in opposition to Pluto. We're going to see this aspect quite a lot over the next few years. And this is not a good energy because, like I said before, the Black Moon Lilith represents like the Queen in Anna or Nephis in Egyptian, and Pluto represents Set in Egyptian and Enlil in Sumerian. So these two were husband and wife. Like I said, it was a bad marriage, or it turned out bad at the end. I mean, you know, it caused a lot of problems for mankind. And I will go into that more in my storytelling side, which I will actually eventually get to at some point. But, you know, with Pluto in opposition to our Black Moon Lilith, I mean, it does represent that for some of us, you know, we're carrying a heavy load. You know, we're extremely serious about our lives. You know, we feel overburdened about our lives. And, you know, we just feel like we're in this energy of darkness and we can't get out of it. Do you know what I mean? But this is all about a breaking down of relationships, and not just our relationships with people, but also it's about our relationship with money, our relationship with our materialistic values, our spiritual values. Do you know what I mean? It incorporates all of that. So we need to let go of what no longer serves us. You know, Pluto in Sagittarius, I mean, Sagittarius is a very independent sign. And again, like, you know, this adds up to 11, which is self-mastery. You know, seven's a very spiritual number. So it's holding on to our spiritual values, but not being too dependent on like, or codependent on another person or on like material things. But really, the sign of Cancer is more about the emotions. It's more about our wisdom. We need to get into our wisdom. So definitely work on calming therapies, whatever works for you, whether it's meditation or me personally, I take my flower essences and I also do meditation, but I also do deep breathing techniques as well. I'm an Aquarius moon conjunct Jupiter and Chiron, so I tend to have to do deep breathing a lot because, I suffer with a lot of nervous energy. That Uranian energy is very similar to the Virgoan energy when it comes to that restless nature. Do you know what I mean? So, that's what's occurring at our full moon today. Tomorrow, sorry. I keep thinking it's the full moon today, but it's tomorrow. And then we have the September equinox. So the September equinox takes place on the 22nd September here in the GMT time zone. In the AEDT time zone, it will be on the 23rd. In the EDT, it will still be on the 22nd. Our sun will be at 5 degrees in Virgo, conjunct Mercury retrograde. Now again, there's that 5 energies. Like I said, this transitioning of our queen, it's a very shifting energy. I'm seeing major shifts occur here. And, but it's also an expanding frequency. So when it comes to our thoughts, our communications, it will influence a shift in our perception. And it's like all about our outer consciousness, especially with the North Node in conjunction with Uranus. I really do feel that there's going to be some kind of exposure or exploitation maybe experienced throughout this time of the September equinox. I just feel that there's some more information coming out. And we also have like Mercury retrograde still in opposition to Jupiter. Like I said, it's all about empty promises. And now we need to take a harder look at details because the narrative out there may be very illogical or contradictive. So are promises going to be kept? We'll have to wait and see because there are being a lot of promises being made at the moment. Do you know what I mean? Especially here in the UK with our new Prime Minister. So we just need to watch out for that, and also with our sun, who will be in opposition to Jupiter as well, conjunct Mercury retrograde. Maybe we can be a little bit over optimistic or over expansive when it comes to, relating or promising more than we can deliver. Or there can be a lot of arrogance as well exhibited, or there can be like unrealistic demands that come forward as well. Do you know what I mean? So we need to watch out from that because I'm feeling something from that energy. Like we just need to listen very carefully to what's being said and then watch to see what's being played out. So we will also have the sun in trine to Uranus. So this is very spiritual when it comes to our insight. This gives us like self-power, really, especially in our creative energy. With the sun in trine to Uranus, it's like universal consciousness is definitely seeping in. And there is definitely this beautiful energy of magnetism. So I think we can really exude great energy, very kind of like optimistic, but in a realistic way. So we just need to watch out for false kind of hope and be very, this is all about spiritual power. It's not about material power. So when we're in good spiritual health, we're actually in good physical health as well. That's the way I see it. So we can express ourselves, and we can express ourselves freely. Do you know what I mean? And we can stand our ground, but in like a solid, structured way without kind of losing the plot. Because I think if we all stand in confidence, in self-power, then we're going to be heard. If we've got something to say and it comes from like more constructive force, then we're going to be heard. But if we're going to like act like irrationally, or let's just say irrational. If we're going to act irrationally, then we're just going to be looked upon as like, oh, look, you know, that person's not all together. And that person wants us to hear what they've got to say, but look, they can't even hold themselves properly. Do you know what I mean? We've been getting that for the last few years already. So we really don't want that. We want to be a good influence for truth and justice. And because our sun is also in trine to Pluto, when it comes to regeneration and transformation and like upgrades, it's very powerful. You know, I just feel that many of us are really going to come into our self-power around the September equinox. And I feel it's because certain things are being exposed and or exploited and it's going to make us stand up and be counted, to be honest. You know, there's so many people out there that just are in the know, that are putting out like the truth and information, and I just feel like this is a turning point. The equinox will definitely be a turning point. And as we head into October, wow, we're going to really see some big changes taking place in our world, for good or ill. I think it will be a combination of the two, because it's like a fight, or well, it's a power struggle at the moment. We've been under this power struggle for quite some time, and I just feel it's time now where we're going to like really see it escalate. And yeah, I just feel what's happened over the last few days is very, very symbolic of what we're going to be seeing in the future. So we've got Pluto going direct in October. I feel as soon as he starts going direct, that's when, you know, we're really going to see what the next few years are going to be. So Kindred, I'm going to leave it there. And yeah, I'm just sending you all peace and much love. Take care.